If you could leave where you are right now and just start up a foreign romance with a beautiful Italian woman, would you? Well, I can't really tell you the best way to go about doing that, but this movie can definitely tell you the warning signs to look out for when sparking up a romance in a foreign land. Who knows, it might just kill you. This is 2015's Spring. Spoiler alert, while I might be giving you my opinion on the film, that's no substitute for watching it for yourself. Links to the film are in the description. And for those of you that need to hear this, this is just a movie. All stunts are for the sake of story and shouldn't be attempted on your own. Viewer discretion is advised. We start off with Evan, who's looking after his dying mother in her room. As he goes to refill the dehumidifier, she calls out to him and tells him that she loves him. He tells her that he loves her back, and he sits to talk with her about his life. She wants to make sure that he's happy, but she can tell that he's off. She decides to tell him a joke before she breathes her last breaths. Then, just like that, she breathes her last. Evan tells her lifeless body that he's grateful for everything she did for him. Later, Evan goes to the bar he works at, and he drinks with his friend Tommy. After the funeral, Tommy comments on how small the funeral was, and apparently, Tommy dropped the casket at some point. Love how casual Tommy is with his apology. He's just like, yeah, sorry, it happens though. No, it definitely doesn't. I feel like if that was the case, no one would ever be allowed to carry another casket again. When Evan goes to the bathroom, a gangster bumps into him and thinks he's going to take his girl by the bathroom. Evan and Tommy try to assure him that it's just been a rough day. But when the guy grabs a metal pole to hit Tommy, Evan puts him down. He doesn't stop there. He keeps hitting the guy like he's trying to put him 6 feet under with his mom. After breaking up the fight, the bartender comes to the back and tells Evan that he needs to change his environment and sort out all of his drama. The bartender tells Evan that the boss called and said he can't work there for the time being, and Evan storms off. To top it off, the gangster now seems to be following him. Just great, Evan's whole family's basically dead and now he's got this guy hobbling after him. It's no wonder Evan ends up in Italy later. This guy pulls up and tells him that he knows where he lives now. Don't give Evan time to rally the troops, hop the fence right now. After that, Tommy stumbles home, and Evan calls an old friend to try and get some. Halfway through the down and dirty, she decides that she can't go through with it, and tells him that he needs to get out of town for a bit to refocus. He winds up passing out, and in the morning, he wakes up to find the police are trying to get him to answer the door. By the time he wakes up, the police leave, but Evan notices his passport on the nightstand. And just like that, Evan books the next flight to Italy and leaves the country. His first night in Italy, Evan meets Tom and Sam at a bar, and they wind up becoming the best of friends. The next day, Evan rides along in their car as they drive down to the coast, and they have the grandest time just driving to their destination. As Evan takes his turn driving, he gets a look at the beautiful landscape and he starts to get emotional. Tom spots the tear coming from Evan's eye, and he assumes that it's because of a woman. So he tells him a story of a love he lost who got fat, and he tells Evan that he's lucky to have a sensitive friend like Tom around. Tom's a hero. Tom is so caught up in himself and with his own emotions that when he tries to empathize with someone, he winds up getting it all wrong. But he's trying. Finally, they reach the coast. And as they walk through the town, Evan spots Louise eating shaved ice in the plaza. That evening, the three friends sit at a bar talking about what's wrong with Yanks. But Evan's attention is turned towards Louise. He takes a chance to talk to her, and she tries to take him away from the bar immediately. Evan thinks that there's a catch, but Louise tries to tell him that she just wants to have some fun. He still thinks that something's off, and she winds up leaving. In the morning, Sam and Tom wake Evan to tell him that they're headed to Amsterdam, and Evan decides that he's just going to stay there. So is this what backpacking through Europe is like? You just go from place to place until you find a spot that you like more than others and stay? I've always wanted to do it, but the idea of just wandering around would give me anxiety for sure. Evan goes to find a posting for help wanted, and he goes to meet with Angelo about a room and a job. Angelo tells him that he'll be helping out around the farm, and Evan agrees to his terms. Later, he makes his way through the town and he spots Louise. He runs to catch up to her, and he goes to a museum with her to try and get her to go out with him. He finds out that she's a student, and they go for a drink afterwards. During their drink, Louise tells Evan a little bit about her history, and she has him write her a love letter before agreeing to drink wine with him. We don't know what he wrote, but apparently it was good enough, because they end up going for a bottle of wine. Is it this easy to woo people? Evan's not smooth or even really being himself. Actually, I don't think he knows who he is. And Louise even calls him out on that while they drink. That is before she takes him elsewhere. There are so many red flags going up that Evan almost seems like he's bewitched by a siren. I can't tell if this is a romance or a horror movie yet. Sometimes it's all the same though. Louise wants him to take to a nearby cave, but they wind up talking about existential crisis stuff instead. At the end of it, Evan leans in and kisses her, While they kiss, he drops the wine bottle, and nearby flowers start to bloom. Within seconds, they head to Evan's place and get it on. While they sleep afterwards, pulsating veins can be seen in her face. Horror. It's a horror movie. Okay, now I'm excited. In the morning, Evan gets some lessons on farming from Angelo. When he's done for the day, Evan spots a stray cat, and we cut over to Louise putting in colored contacts. When her hand gets hit by sunlight, she burns a little, and she injects herself with a homemade concoction. Later, Evan goes back to the bar to hopefully catch a glimpse of Louise, but there's no luck. After he leaves, he spots her getting ice cream, and after she plays a prank on him, they go through town together. That night, Evan goes to Louise's house, and she makes him dinner. Suddenly, she notices some changes on her leg, and she heads to the bathroom with a needle. What am I watching? Her spine is rolling, she gets hairy, she has fangs. I just keep trying to figure out what creature we're dealing with here. After that gets contained, they eat dinner, and she tells him that she tries to avoid meat. In the morning, Evan goes to the bathroom, and he notices a needle on the ground. When he goes to work with Angelo, he tells him that he's seeing Louise, but he's worried about the needle. Angelo simply tells him to pick his poison. That night, Evan asks Louise about the syringe, and she tells him that it's a medical condition that she takes medicine for. Now that that's squashed, Evan has the waiter take a picture of the two of them, but Louise is blurred in the picture. Evan just assumes she moved. Louise gets mad that Evan won't talk about his family, and she takes it as he can't be intimate. He chases after her, and when they wind up at the beach, he finally opens up about his mother dying last week. Louise tries to help him talk about it, but when it comes time for her to open up to him, all she tells him is that she has 2 different colored eyes. Thanks, Louise, really helpful. The next day, Louise goes to the clinic to see her patients, but her body starts to transform in the middle of her visits. She ends up leaving to get her iPod and rabbits from the apartment. She takes them all to a nearby cave, and she writes old sigils on the wall after sacrificing the rabbits. It seems to work for a second, but then she devours the dead rabbit. She sheds her skin and she heads back home. That night, Evan comes over to visit, and he finds her crashing on the couch. She tells him that she feels sick, and he decides to stay with her to take care of her. Yeah, sick, that's it. You just shed your skin like a snake. I think being sick is an oversimplification. She's like 4 animals in one. The next day, Evan gets an early day from work, and he goes back to the museum to buy a book that Louise pointed out earlier. He finds a spot in town to look through the book, and Louise stops on her walk home. She takes him to her boat, and she shows him a nearby cave. That night at dinner, she leaves abruptly when her body starts to transform again. When she stumbles around the alleys, an American tourist notices her and propositions her, but when he touches her, the animal side of her comes out and kills him. The next day, his body is found mutilated on the rocks in the water. That evening, Evan comes to visit Louise, but she won't let him inside. It's only after seeing the police that she lets him in for a minute. She takes this minute to tell Evan that they need to break up. It's only been a week, but this already feels like a huge breakup. Evan definitely feels that way too. He looks like a freight train just hit him. Before Evan leaves, he tells her that she could be the love of his life, but she still sends him on his way. When Evan shows up at home, police arrive, and Angelo tells him that it's immigration, and he should run. That night, Evan heads to Louise's room, but he finds a surprise when he breaks down the door. Oh, look at it! I mean, looks like she's a cross of 5 different animals here. But now I'm really wondering how this became a thing in the first place. Evan spots the syringe nearby and he jabs it into Louise's neck. After a second, all of the animal parts just fall off. After Louise composes herself, the two of them sit at the table, and Evan tries to get some answers. When she doesn't explain anything, Evan simply walks out, and Louise follows. She shows him the book from the museum, and she explains that she's the woman on the cover. She tells him that she's 2,000 years old, and every 20 years she becomes a new body after conceiving a child. Well, that's an interesting way to say congratulations on being a daddy. By the way, I just used the cells from the baby to keep me young. Evan has a hard time believing any of it, but she goes through the scientific process while explaining. He seems just as concerned about why she decided to even get to know him at all. Eventually, he takes a second to call Tommy, but that turns out to be pointless. After hanging up with Tommy, Evan goes to turn his attention back to Louise, but he spots Angelo praying at the church nearby. Seeing Angelo miss his beloved so much makes Evan reconsider how he reacts to this. He tells her that he would rather be with her until his last days, but Louise tries to send him away. She can't help how she feels though. Evan finds out there might be a chance. This is like that forbidden love between a human and an elf. One doomed to die and the other doomed to live for all eternity. So what, just go with it. It's not until immigration shows up that she decides to go with him. It took that much to convince her? Wow. Evan can't even find the right words. So he gets lucky with the timing of immigration. That's lucky. After driving out of town, the two of them stop to get a little frisky, and in the morning, Evan asks why she decided to stick with him. She explains that she just likes how easy things are with him. As they sit there talking about why they like each other, we see that Louise is comfortably letting her animal out, and they head to Naples next. While there, they decide to go in a grand church, and Evan tries to ask if she's picked up any knowledge on God since she's been around for 2 millennia. She tells him that she hasn't been able to keep up with the changes in gods, but she's sure that everything has an explanation that will show itself when people are ready. When he finally notices Louise's face, he tells her that she might want to take a shot real quick. After that, they head to a nearby museum to look at another painting of Louise back in history. But after that, they head to a mausoleum and talk about the possibility of Louise not regenerating. The other option is that she uses her own cells to continue aging, and then she'd be mortal and pregnant. The thought of that terrifies Louise, but Evan is psyched about it. He even tells her that since she would be giving up her immortality, he would give up something in return. Smoking. Look, I'm not downplaying quitting smoking, we've all had our habits to kick, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm not sure smoking compares to immortality. It is a thoughtful gesture though. Louise explains that it's not up to her to choose, it's up to her body. If she releases enough oxytocin from being in love, her body will simply choose to live out her days as this body. Just then, she lashes out, and she uses her last syringe. She decides that she wants to show him where she grew up, and along the way, Evan tries to convince her that he's in love with her. When they get to Pompeii, she shows him her family that's still preserved in ash, and she warns him that when she transforms, the monster will be bigger and more dangerous than ever. In the morning, Evan begs Louise one last time in an attempt to make her stay the way she is. We've already established that it's not up to her. If she doesn't love you, then it's over. But I've gotta say, when he looks back down at her and finds that she's still herself, that was a fulfilling ending that I haven't seen in a little while. Then the credits roll. This movie was fantastically done. It didn't overuse the creature effects, but it didn't make me wait the entire movie to see it either. While it's nice to think about the ending as a happily ever after sort of situation, it would have been nice to know about whether they wound up in jail after all of that for immigration. At least she's still her. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.